A very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha Television, your one-stop morning show for the biggest news stories that you might have missed during the night and also the stories that are likely to unfold during the course of the day today. My name is Aishwarya Kapoor and these are the headlines. Government set to move a triple talaq bill in Rajya Sabha today. Government reaches out to the opposition parties to ensure smooth passage of the bill. Rajya Sabha sets two records, takes up all listed issues and special mentions on the agenda during 0 hour, also takes up all 15 start questions during question hour. Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu applauds the members for their cooperation. Rajya Sabha passes Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill. Replying to the debate, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley states that the proposed amendments will prevent willful defaulters from taking part in insolvency proceedings. Special CBI court to pronounce a quantum of sentence for former Bihar Chief Minister Lalu Prasad Yadav and 15 others in a fodder scam. Case pertains to fraudulent withdrawal of 89.27 lakh rupees from Deoghar Treasury between 1991 to 1994. And the White House confirms that US has suspended $255 million military aid to Pakistan. Says the US will announce more actions within days. China defends Pakistan, says that international community should acknowledge its contribution to fighting terrorism. The biggest story of the day, the triple talaq bill is likely to be tabled in the Rajya Sabha today. Now, the government is hopeful that the proposed legislation will get a green signal in the upper house as well, and has reportedly reached out to the Congress to ensure smooth passage of the bill. Meanwhile, the opposition parties are in favor of sending the bill to a select committee.
The government is in talks with the Congress and other opposition parties to ensure the smooth passage of the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriages Bill 2017 in the Rajya Sabha. Union Minister Anant Kumar on Tuesday expressed hope that parties in Rajya Sabha will support the bill in the same manner as they did in Lok Sabha, where the bill was passed by voice vote. The bill is likely to be taken up in the upper house on Wednesday.
कांग्रेस से लेकर के सभी पार्टियों से हमारा लगातार बातचीत जारी है और हम इतना ही कह रहे हैं उनको, यदि कांग्रेस ने लोकसभा में इसके बारे में कोई अमेंडमेंट प्रेस नहीं किया, अमेंडमेंट तो उन्होंने रखा था लेकिन प्रेस नहीं किया, तो वही रवैया राज्यसभा में भी अपनाना चाहिए और इस ऐतिहासिक बिल को स्मूथ पैसेज के लिए, यानी मुझे लगता है आम सहमति से पारित करने के लिए वो मदद करना चाहिए.
Although the Congress supported the bill in the lower house, it is objecting to some of the provisions in the upper house. Opposition parties including Congress, SP, PSP, AIADMK, DMK, CPI, CPIM, BJD want detailed deliberations on the criminality clause.
कांग्रेस पार्टी अभी भी इसका स्वागत करती है, लेकिन इसको गंभीरता से परीक्षण करके जो अगर कमियां हैं तो उसको दूर कर लिया जाए. हम इस हित में हैं कि महिलाओं को अधिकार की रक्षा होना चाहिए, उनके अधिकार सुरक्षित होनी चाहिए और जो हैरेसमेंट गैर कानूनी तरीके से हो रहा था वो बंद हो.
The bill passed by the Lok Sabha last week criminalizes instant triple talaq among Muslims. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
And the Rajya Sabha created two records on Tuesday. First, during the 0 hour, when it took up all the listed issues and special mentions on the agenda for the day. And the second was during the question hour, where the House took up all 15 start questions after 15 long years. Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu applauded their members for their cooperation in setting up the record.
After witnessing days of disruptions, the upper house of parliament made a record on Tuesday as it took up all the 0 hour issues and special mentions listed in the agenda for that period. Amid thumping of desks, Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu credited members of the house, saying the record depended on their cooperation. He expressed hope that in the future too, the members would not waste time and will stick to the schedule.
मित्रों, आज राज्य सभा ने एक छोटी सी इतिहास रचाया. पहली बार all 0-hour submissions, all special mentions were fully completed. My operation depends on your cooperation. So your cooperation is good, so my operation also is smooth. That's why the House was able to set this record. I hope in future also, regularly, without wasting time, sticking on to the schedule.
The chairman also suggested that the ministers concerned should go through the 0-hour submissions and special mentions and reply to the members at the earliest in order to enhance productivity of the House.
Today, special mention on 0-hour notices, the ministers after the House is adjourned, at the earliest time, they should go through it and then send replies to honorable members. That will really enhance the productivity of the House. I hope everybody will do it.
Even during question hour, all 50 listed stout questions were taken up in the House, the first time in 15 years. The last time it happened was in 2002. Normally, 4 or 5 questions among the top listed half a dozen questions are taken up in the House. With Navikram Singh, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Rajya Sabha passed the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill on Tuesday. Now, the bill aims to prevent willful defaulters from taking part in insolvency proceedings. Replying to the debate on the bill, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted that the proposed amendments will prevent willful defaulters from taking part in insolvency proceedings of stressed assets of companies. A defaulter, however, can become eligible to submit a resolution plan if all dues with interest and other charges relating to NPA accounts are cleared.
The clause H is that you have given a guarantee in a case, not any guarantee, in a case where an insolvency petition has already been admitted. So you are already before the NCLT in another insolvency court. So you are facing an insolvency proceeding yourself before the tribunal, and therefore you start bidding either for the same company or for another company. Now, would we allow people with such questionable credentials to come in, having had such a bitter experience of how these NPAs themselves have been created, and allow people with this kind of a doubt?
Now, the vote to pass the bill was unanimous. Members from across the political spectrum supported the bill, also making several observations and suggestions.
I have no objection to foreigners coming into India and investing. But I think a level playing field should have been created for an adequate number of Indian companies, adequate number of Indian investors to bid for these assets, rather than excluding them by this very over-inclusive ordinance, which will keep out, in my view, a large number of potential Indian investors.
सरकार ने जो पूरा एक डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन की जो एक सीमाएं तय करी है रेजोल्यूशन एप्लीकेंट के लिए, वो निश्चित रूप से इस कानून को मजबूती प्रदान करेगा और आने वाले समय में इस देश में इंसॉल्वेंसी और बैंकरप्सी कानून के माध्यम से हम देश की पूंजी को सुरक्षित करके देश के उद्योग व्यापार को बढ़ा पाएंगे।
बिटकॉइन अगर एक पैरेलल इकोनॉमी कंट्री की बनती चली गई, अगर लोग व्यापार बिटकॉइन के माध्यम से करने लगे, तो आपका इस एक्ट का, इस बिल का क्या अर्थ रह जाएगा?
For that matter, the RBI Act of 1931 or Banking Regulation Act of 1949 have not been amended for disclosure of the identities of such willful defaulters. Sorry to say. Therefore, according to us, there should be sharp difference between the bad loan accounts and the willful defaulters.
I think this bill itself should ensure, I request Honorable Finance Minister to ensure a concrete clause to prevent any kind of haircut on the part of the banking institutions, financial institutions. They are all public sector institutions.
If for 2 years punishment can be given for very minor offences and which are subsequently set aside and which have nothing to do with the company or has nothing to do with the financial activities, whether certain clarification in the provisions requires to be given or not, that should be looked into.
Why can't you publish the names of corporate houses? Which prevents you? Why are you afraid of these corporate houses? After all, the banks are giving loan from out of people's money, sir. It is people's money.
कर्ज लेकर खा जाने, जिस कंपनी के नाम लिया उसे दिवालिया बनाकर कर्जे को चुपचाप ज्यादा फायदे वाले धंधों में डाल देने भारतीय उद्यमी ये काम कर रहे थे। आरबीआई और केंद्र सरकार ने जो भी कदम उठाए हैं हिस्टोरिक है।
Definitely, I urge and request the Honorable Finance Minister in the educational loans and the agricultural loans must be exempted from the concept of NPA.
And the centre has outlined the contours of electoral bonds in a bid to clean up political funding. Finance Minister RJDs announced the guidelines for the new electoral bonds that can be bought from specified branches of the State Bank of India and can be used to donate money only to registered political parties. A citizen of India or a body incorporated in India will be eligible to purchase the bond. Electoral bonds will not carry the name of the payee and can be cashed only through a designated bank account within 15 days. Bonds can be bought for any value in the multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees. Now, clarifying further, the Finance Minister said that these bonds will also act as interest-free debt instruments equivalent to promissory notes, where the SBI will be the custodian of the donors' funds until the political parties are paid. The bonds will be available for purchase for 10 days each in the months of January, April, July and October. But then the purchase window will extend to 30 days in the year of general election.
पैसा क्लीन हो जाएगा और इसमें ट्रांसपेरेंसी के 2 लिम्स होंगे कि जो देने वाला होगा उसके अकाउंट्स में रिफ्लेक्टेड होगा उसने कितने खरीदे हैं और पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को भी ये डिक्लेरेशन देना पड़ेगा कि मुझे कुल योग टोटल कितना इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड मिला है। ये एक सुधार है। इसमें और भी कोई सुझाव आते हैं इसको लागू करने के बाद तो उसको हम लोग सोच सकते हैं।
And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back with more news, so stay tuned.
The story we thought we knew. The story of magnificence. The story of bloody battles. Of those who ruled and those who left their footprints. The story charting the course of our past. Talking history on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back after the break. The special CBI court is all set to pronounce the quantum of sentence against RJD chief Lalu Prasad Yadav in a fodder scam case today. The special court in Ranchi will pronounce the quantum of sentence for jailed former Bihar chief minister and 15 others. The court had convicted Lalu Yadav on 23rd of December last year for fraudulent withdrawal of money from the treasury in Deoghar. Lalu is presently lodged in Birsa Munda Central Jail in Ranchi. Earlier in 2013, he was convicted for a similar offence in Chaibasa Treasury and was sentenced to 5 years in jail. He was released on a bail granted by the Supreme Court almost 3 months after the conviction. Now, Lalu Prasad is also facing trial in 3 more cases relating to the fodder scam. And on to the other big story of the day. The Maharashtra government has ordered a judicial inquiry into the violence which erupted during the 200th anniversary celebrations of the Bhima Koregaon battle in Pune. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said that a sitting High Court judge will head the inquiry. He also appealed for calm and peace, urging people not to spread rumours on social media. Home Minister Rajnath Singh also spoke to Fadnavis on the phone to take stock of the situation. The violence began after a man was killed in the clashes during celebrations to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the battle. On Monday, now the protest spread to other parts of the state. On Tuesday, Dalit communities in Mumbai also called for a Rasta Roko protest on Tuesday. The protesters also blocked roads in several areas of Mumbai and forced shops to shut down. Security has been tightened in Mumbai after incidents of stone pelting were reported from several areas. More than 100 people have also been detained. The School Buses Association said that it would keep its buses off the roads today in view of the safety of the school children. Meanwhile, leader of the Bharatiya Bahujan Mahasangh, Prakash Ambedkar, has called for Maharashtra Band today.
हमने ये तय किया है कि ये जो पूरा इंसिडेंस है एक सोची समझी साजिश के तहत क्या ये किया गया, इसके ऊपर भी ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि अगर पुलिस इतने बड़े पैमाने पर वहां पर नहीं होती तो शायद बहुत गंभीर घटना भी वहां पर घट सकती थी। इसलिए ये प्रयास किया जा रहा है कि इसके जो तह तक हम लोग जाए, और इसलिए हम माननीय उच्च न्यायालय को रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे और माननीय उच्च न्यायालय के सिटिंग न्यायाधीश के माध्यम से इसकी न्यायिक जांच की जाएगी। साथ ही में जो हत्या हुई है उसकी सीआईडी इंक्वायरी की जाएगी।
The miscreants, there were some miscreants who tried to create some nuisance, and some of them tried to pelt stones at public transports. The police, by using the CCTV coverage that we have, we were able to identify the miscreants, and we have apprehended about more than 100 people until now. I would appeal to the people not to believe in rumors and keep up the resilient nature of Mumbai city.
And the notification for the upcoming by-poll for Lok Sabha and Assembly seats will be issued today, and the last date for filing of nominations is 10th of January. The by-elections will be held to fill 3 vacancies in the Lok Sabha on 29th of January. Polling will be held in Rajasthan's Ajmer and Alwar constituencies and Uluberia in West Bengal. By-polls in Rajasthan are being held as sitting MPs Sanwarlal Jat from Ajmer and Mahant Chanmat from Alwar passed away recently. Election in West Bengal is being held as Trinamool Congress MP Sultan Ahmed passed away in September last year. Now, by-elections will be held to fill 1 casual vacancy each in the state assemblies of Rajasthan and West Bengal. Polling will take place on 29th of January for by-polls in Rajasthan and Neopara constituency in West Bengal, and the counting of votes for both Lok Sabha and state assembly by-polls will be held on 1st of February. And on to weather news, and cold wave conditions continue to grip across several states in North India. In Jammu and Kashmir, the mercury has settled several degrees below freezing point. Srinagar city recorded a minimum of -4.3 degrees Celsius, while North Kashmir's Gulmarg has recorded a temperature of -6 degrees Celsius. The mercury in Pahalgam dropped to -6.6 degrees Celsius, and Leh in Ladakh region is experiencing the coldest period of this winter season. Speaking about Himachal Pradesh, it also witnessed another spell of mild snowfall. Kalpa and Manali in the hill state shivered under sub-zero temperatures, with minimum temperature at -4.8 degree and -3.2 degrees Celsius respectively. According to Met Department, Buntar recorded a low of 0.2 degrees Celsius, followed by Sundarnagar at 1.1 degrees Celsius. And the Met Office has predicted dry weather in the state for the next 6 days as well. In Delhi, a blanket of dense fog enveloped the city and surrounding areas. The low visibility led to cancellation of several flights and trains. However, the situation is much better this morning. The minimum temperature has been recorded at 8.4 degrees Celsius and the maximum settled at 7.7 degrees Celsius. And the Met Office has predicted that there will be similar weather conditions for a few more days, and the cold conditions will rather intensify. In Uttar Pradesh, the cold weather condition continued its spell in the state. Moradabad recorded a minimum temperature of 5.7 degrees Celsius, and in Bihar, Patna experienced the coldest day of the season on Tuesday, registering a minimum temperature of 7.1 degrees Celsius. The Met Department has predicted cold wave conditions at several places till 5th of January. In Punjab, Bhatinda recorded a minimum temperature of 2.7 degrees Celsius. The White House says that it will likely announce further actions to pressure Islamabad to do more to fight terrorism. Now, this comes after the US announced that it was withholding $255 million in aid for Pakistan because of its failure to cooperate fully in America's fight against terrorism. The White House confirmed that the US has suspended military aid to Pakistan for now, saying that the fate of such assistance will depend on Islamabad's response to terrorism. PTI has quoted a senior American official as saying that US President Donald Trump expects Pakistan to take decisive action against terrorism and militants on its soil, and that Pakistan's action in support of the South Asia strategy will ultimately determine the trajectory of our relationship, including future security assistance. It is noteworthy that US President Donald Trump's first tweet of 2018 was a blistering attack on Pakistan, accusing the country of lies and deceit and making fools of US leaders and offering little help in hunting terrorists in Afghanistan.
The administration is withholding $255 million in assistance to Pakistan. There are clear reasons for this. Pakistan has played a double game for years. They work with us at times, and they also harbor the terrorists that attack our troops in Afghanistan. That game is not acceptable to this administration. We expect far more cooperation from Pakistan in the fight against terrorism. The President is willing to go to great lengths to stop all funding from Pakistan as they continue to harbor and support terrorism.
Meanwhile, Pakistan Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi on Tuesday chaired a cabinet meeting over Donald Trump's tweet at a separate meeting of the National Security Committee in Islamabad, chaired by Abbasi and attended by senior politicians, military officials and civil servants. Pakistan government said that it was disappointed by Donald Trump's stance, but would not act in haste over what he had said. NSC said in a statement that remarks by the US leadership contradicted facts and negated the decades of sacrifices made by the Pakistani nation. Pakistan had also summoned US Ambassador David Hale on Monday in protest at Donald Trump's allegation. Now, following the NSC meet, Foreign Minister of the country, Khwaja Asif, challenged Trump's claim that the US has given Pakistan more than $33 billion aid over the last 15 years. In a tweet, he said that Donald Trump could hire a US-based audit firm to verify 33 billion USD aid figure and let the world know who is lying and deceiving. Meanwhile, after US President Donald Trump rebuked to Pakistan for its reluctance to act against terror, China came out in defense of its ally. China said that the world should acknowledge Pakistan's outstanding contribution to counter terrorism. Responding to questions about Donald Trump's criticism of Pakistan, China said, and I quote, "Pakistan has made enormous efforts and sacrifice for the fight against terrorism and has made a very outstanding contribution to the global cause of counter-terrorism. The international community should acknowledge that," unquote. China also said that it was glad to see Pakistan engaging in international cooperation, including counter-terrorism, to contribute to regional peace and security. And after Pakistan, the United States has threatened to stop all financial aid to Palestine if it refuses to engage in peace negotiations. In a tweet on Tuesday, US President Donald Trump said that the US may withhold payments to Palestinians because they are no longer willing to talk peace. He said that Washington was giving Palestinians hundreds of millions of dollars a year for nothing, saying that the US received no appreciation or respect in return. US Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley has also said that Trump has no intention to continue funding the United Nations Relief Works, an agency for Palestinian refugees, unless the Palestinians come to the negotiation table to move forward on peace talks. The move comes almost a month after Donald Trump's 6th of December announcement that he recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and would move the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
The president has basically said that he doesn't want to give any additional funding or stop funding until the Palestinians are agreeing to come back to the negotiation table. And what we saw with the resolution was not helpful to the situation. We're trying to move the peace process, but if that doesn't happen, the president's not going to continue to fund that situation.
News from Iran, where the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on Tuesday blamed Iran's enemies for stirring up unrest in the country as the death toll from days of anti-government protests climbed to 21. It is the 7th day of the protest today, and more than 450 protesters have been arrested in the capital and hundreds of others have been detained around the country. Several footages showed Iranian protesters chanting "Death to dictator" and "Down with clerical regime" as security forces struggle to contain the boldest challenge to Iran's clerical leadership since the unrest in 2009. The demonstrations that broke out last week were initially focused on economic hardships and alleged corruption, but turned into political rallies. In his first remarks since the demonstrations erupted last Thursday, Khamenei accused the nation's enemies of joining forces and blamed them for the protests that have turned violent. However, the US has branded as complete nonsense Iran's accusation that its enemies have been behind the wave of violent protests. US envoy to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, said that the protests were spontaneous, adding that the US planned to call an emergency United Nations meeting on the situation.
Now the Iranian dictatorship is trying to do what it always does, which is to say that the protests were designed by Iran's enemies. We all know that's complete nonsense. The demonstrations are completely spontaneous. They are virtually in every city in Iran. This is the precise picture of a long oppressed people rising up against their dictators.
And on to sports, an ace Indian tennis player Yuki Bhamri has advanced to the second round of the ongoing Tata Open tournament in Pune. Bhamri beat Arjun Khare 6-3, 6-4 in the opening round. Yuki Bhamri will now face 8th-seed Frenchman Pierre-Hugues Herbert. Meanwhile, India's Sumit Nagpal bowed out of the tournament. Nagpal lost to Belarusian Ilya Ivanchka. In the doubles event, an Indian pair of Jeevan Neduchesian and Rohan Bopanna have qualified for the quarterfinals. The pair beat the Indian rivals Leander Paes and Purav Raja 6-3, 6-2. And that's it from me and the entire Breakfast News team at the moment. But news and updates continue on your channel. Thanks for watching.